So this is a single signature book, and it's kind of a pamphlet style. It's very easy to make. They're fun if you want to have something for notes and for little sketches or just little notes to keep something by your telephone, if you're jotting down stuff. But what you could do is take your 5 and 8, if you have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, what I want you to cut it in half. So cut it in half so that it's 5.5 by 8.5. So you're going to cut all of your sheets. And what I would do, I'm just going to do this on my paper cutter just to show you. If you have a paper cutter, great. If you don't, that's okay. You can use your X-Acto knife. But what you're going to want to do is cut all of your sheets. This one doesn't have a ruler that goes out. Well then, all right, I'll just do it this way. So I'm looking at an 11-inch grid here. So it's at 5, it's in the center, 5, and I'm going to be cutting, or you can tear as well. If you don't have a cutter, you can also tear, but you just want it to be exactly in half. So the way you do this, you can either fold it in half, so you can see the crease, like this. And then you could make the tear, or you could, moisten the edge right here and then tear. I just moistened it I just licked that thing. And now I could use kind of that moistening helps to make that edge come off easy, but however you want to do it, but just tear your sheets in half. And it can be a soft edge, but if you can cut it as well with your cutter. But these are, you cut, let's say 5 or more of these. And I'm using my signatures are going to be heavier. This is the sulfite paper that I like. So I'm making a little bit heavier signatures. But what you're going to do is create several sheets, at least 5 or maybe 6, as many as you want to. And then we're going to, once you've cut them in size, you're going to fold them in half like this. And this is going to be the size of your book. This is this is 4.5 by 5.5. That's your book size. If you're doing a 9 by 12, it's going to be 6 by 4.5, because that's just, I'm using a 9 by 12. But really, just don't worry too much about it. It is just cutting your 8.5 by 11 or your 9 by 12 in half, and then folding those in half. So make several signatures and just kind of crease using your bone. If you have a bone folder, that's great. Get those creases nice and sharp so that you can do all the parts that you need. So having a ruler is good. What you also need is an awl or something that you can use that's pointy, that's not, that you can poke holes through. And I got this little wooden bead that keeps me from stabbing myself. A cutting mat, you need that because you're going to be, poking through several layers. Or if you have a piece of cardboard, piece of mat board, something like that. So I'm going to fold it in half landscape like this. So that's kind of how, then I'm going to cut. This is where I'm cutting right here in that halfway. So here I've got, this is the 9 by 12, but I've got several. I'm going to tell you how many. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sheets. I could do 10 if I wanted, but I'm going to just stick with the 9 right here, because any more than that, it gets just really bulky. But especially with a thicker paper. This is a 70 GSM, and so it's a little bit thicker. And what I'm doing is I folded it in half. So cut your sheets, fold them in half, and try to stack them as much as you can so that they're as close as you to the inside as possible. But what you'll notice is when you do that, if you do a whole stack of paper, you're going to see the ends are going to be longer. They're going to be poking out from the center because that's just the distance that you're having. Right here, it's just going to stick out, so it's not straight. So what I like to do is I take my ruler, and I like to use these little cutting rulers that are they have a nice little guard rail on them. And I'm just going to kind of line up using my little mat as a guide, just so that I can kind of make sure everything's still straight. I'm going to take I'm going to find the very edge of the first paper, which is right there. So I can see the edge of that paper. And I'm just going to take that, lay it right on top of that edge, make sure it's lined up. And I'm going to take a good sharp knife, nice and sharp. I'm going to gently, I'm going to go through each of these, but I'm not pushing down hard. I'm just going to glide across and just kind of follow, just glide across all these layers, and there's going to be a lot of little layers, but I'd rather do it in layers like this rather than just trying to just jam this knife through the whole thing. So now I've just taken off all those layers and I've made a beautiful little nice edge. Now that beautiful edge here. There's a couple of layers I didn't get cut, so it doesn't matter that much. I'm not going to worry about it, but you can see it now. I've got a nice flush edge for my book. So that is what you want to do. If you're going to make several, like I have plans to make several today, but I'll just show you this one this morning and then I'll keep working on them today, but I wanted to make several. So then for you that, so this is the signature. So let's sew. Actually, we can not sew them yet. We're just going to set that to the side. We're going to, and we have a needle and we're going to have a thread. So the needle I use is a dull, kind of a dull, I don't even know what that's called, but it's not a really sharp needle. I forgot the name of it, but it's a pretty wide eye there. And I'm using the kind of thread I'm using is Dual Duty Plus Button and Craft. And I just use this off-white because it's perfect for making books. I'm going to treat it with some wax. Now you don't have to have that. If you don't have it, you can use any thread that you have, but I'm going to show you what I do. So I've got this wax that I keep. This is for doing thread. You can use beeswax, anything that you have, but this is meant specifically for thread. And it's, I'm trying to remember who makes it, but it's just for waxing, for making your threads stick better. So I'm going to take this, I've got it threaded already in the needle. I don't know why. I'm going to take it off that. I've got plenty of thread here. I don't need all this much, but what I'm going to do is take the thread and I'm going to take it through this little wax thing and just kind of drag it through so that I can get some wax on it. So I'm just taking it and I'm going to do it a couple times. I'm just dragging it through this little cool wax thing. And I know it just makes the thread stronger. It makes it easier to stitch. It helps it grab. I don't know what on cloth what this does, but it must do something. But I really love it doing this waxing part. And you can wax as long, just enough of a piece that you can get it, make your stitches. So I'm just waxing it maybe 3 or 4 times to run it through your little wax. If you have just beeswax or something or a candle, you can use that. Even a birthday candle, you can just kind of run it through. You'll feel it kind of becoming more resistant. The thread feels like it's really resisting more because that wax is getting coated on all sides of the thread. It's going to make this a much stronger thread for bookbinding. And I'm going to do one more time. I'm just running it one more time. So now that I've done that, this is a handy thing. It's very inexpensive. I think $2 or something, at least back 2 years ago. Who knows what it is now. Then I have my thread and I'm just going to go ahead and thread it through this big eye because I don't like little eyes. And I'm going to set my thread aside for a moment. Now what we need to do is now with this small size of a book, you probably will get away with 3 holes. If you want to do 5 holes, you can do 5, but let's start with this one with 3 and maybe I'll show you one with 5. I think we'll have time. So I'm going to gently, and one thing I forgot, I need to get something. You need to get clips, like some kind of clip, like bulldog clips or something that's going to hold your signatures together. So I've got these little clips here. Now I'm going to make sure it's stacked together really well. I'm going to open it up very gently, carefully, and I'm going to clip these pages together because I don't want them moving at all when I'm doing when I'm poking the holes. They're just doing it like that. So what I have now, whatever way you can clip it, like if you have clothespins, just something. There we go. Usually I have bulldog clips, but I don't even know where I put them. But this will work too. So there. Now I've got it. That's going to hold everything in place, and it's all good. So now I'm going to go ahead, and this is where you need a little. You don't really need to mark it. If you want to mark it, I'll just do a little pencil mark to show you what I'm going to do it. You don't have to, but I'm going to mark a hole here in the middle, and I'm going to mark. Let's do 5 for fun. Now I'll be not. I'm going to do a second one right here, and the third one right here. So what I've done is basically space them evenly apart from the edges, sort of. Now, if I wanted to do 5, I would have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be 7. Anyway, let's do 3 to start. 3 holes. So I've got my 3, and I can space them out a little bit differently. Like here, I can see that it's a little bit farther out. So I'm just trying to make a nice even spacing of the holes. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So let's start with the center hole and we should probably at the same time. No, we don't. We could do this with our covers too. So I'm going to have to just leave that alone. Or we could put holes in. Let's do that now. So we'll start with our putting some holes. And when you're doing this, just kind of pick it up and kind of turn your awl, kind of twist it until it comes through to the other side. And then just keep twisting all the way until you've got a nice hole. There we go. So that it doesn't take a lot of work to do that. But you start by twisting the awl. And if you don't have an awl, you could use a needle, but just kind of start with the twisting motion and then just let it come through. And I love this awl because it really does the job. It's just a simple tool to have in your arsenal for a lot of things. And twist and then bring it through. So I'm going to let that sit. Now I've got my little signatures all done. There it is. I'm going to let that sit to the side because I have clips on it. I don't worry about it. Now what I've done is, this is still drying. It's a little wet, but I'm going to show you how I made this cover. So this morning I was busy. I'll make another one just so you can see. This morning I was busy jelly plating. I had so much fun. I made this cover for the books. And I thought, well, I made the first cover. This still isn't even dry. I don't have enough glue there, I see. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you what I did. I cut up the same size. Basically, it's the same size as my signatures. So if it's a 5.5 by 8.5, you're going to same thing, fold it in half. You're going to cut it to your decorative paper or whatever you've got. And you could even just be the same weight of the signatures. It doesn't have to be heavier. I was just kind of wanting a little heavier than the signatures. So I jelly plated my little heart out this morning. So here's a couple of them here that I thought were so cool. I had so much fun. This one says notes, so I'll show you that one. But then you notice these curled, and I didn't really want that. So they made these, gonna make several. So, but I just noticed they curled too much, and it's not going to be fun playing with that. So what I thought I would do, I'm going to grab a piece of paper just to use it for my glue. And also the other side of the paper is kind of wonky, so I thought it'd be fun to decorate it. So what I did was I cut, this is the same size, so it's that same size, but folded over, just like your signatures. And then for the inside pieces, I cut some more of the same paper, but I cut it a little bit smaller. So just a little bit smaller, had to be like a hair smaller. And if it doesn't fold over, then I'm going to cut even more off. So I'm going to show you, you want to have a little space in that spine area. So let me explain that. I'm just going to take, if I measure this, this is my large, remember these are the 9 by 12s. So I'm measuring it from the center out, that's 4 center to the edge, that's 4.5. So what I want to do is make it a little bit smaller than 4.5 so that there's some room in that spine area. So I'm going to just trim off a little tiny sliver. So here's if I look at the 4.5 mark, there it is. And I'm going to just trim off maybe 1/8 of an inch, right? Just like that, just 1/8 of an inch, which is going to give me some room. So that's all I cut was a little sliver. I might keep that sliver for something. I might even trim up a little more, just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same on this side. So, and I'm going to keep the height the same though. So I'm going to just trim off that little bit of just enough to make room in that spine area. Okay. So then what I did is I take, this is my little curly paper. Oops. My bead is showing. Here's the front of my cover. I already did a thing that's the front. So now what I need to do is fix this so that it looks a lot cleaner. So I'm going to take, what I'm going to do is take this, and I noticed I put way too much glue on the other, and I did it with a credit card, and I think it was just too much, and I just didn't spread it around really well. So, because I was in a big hurry. So I'm going to use a glue brush. And if you haven't used a glue brush, I love them because you can really put the glue, which a stencil brush would work just the same if you have a stencil brush. But I love it because you can really smash that glue into the fibers of the paper, and you can control it a little bit more because the scraping tool will just kind of scrape over the it'll scrape over the fibers and over any rough edges, but this glue brush really gets in there. So, and I don't have to put as much glue when I do this, which will help it lay flatter. So now I'm going to put this, I'm going to move that out of the way, put this on the inside of my cover here because I want this part to be showing. And I'm just going to put it right, and I have to place it right because kind of nicely, hopefully it's even, and I can always trim, but I've got, there it is, and that is a little off. So I have a little time to move it, which is good. And there. And so what that's going to do, it's going to stabilize it. See how it's not curling. Now there's a little edge I'm going to have to trim, but I'm not going to worry about it. I can trim that later. And if I see any areas that need a little more glue, I don't need it. It's not critical, but you know, I can do it like that. And then just burnish it down. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Just going to put it on. And then I've got this beautiful inside cover, and it also makes it lay flat because the too wet, for some reason, it bonds the paper and it makes it lay nice and flat, and it's more stable and doesn't want to curl. I don't know exactly. I know there's a mechanical physics, a reason when you're working with grains and things like that, or grains of paper. All right, so now I'm going to put this on, lay it right on. And you can see I have a space now in the spine area. Just gonna make sure I'm going to kind of move that. There we go. Now you see there's a space. That's a good thing. I wanted that space because I didn't want to have to go through two things of paper. Plus, it's going to make for a very nice finished piece. But look at it, just laid flat. It was curling like crazy before, and now it's flat. So I see I've got a little white showing from the other piece of paper on there. I'm just going to trim it very carefully. I don't want to cut into that cover, but I don't want that white showing. So I'm just going to trim it very gently off there. It's perfect though. And it's just laying just the way I want. So now the next thing is I'm going to put my glue brush in water so I don't ruin it. But that looks really perfect. Now let's take our signatures. We've got our block, our little text block, or our signatures here. And we're going to turn our cover over, lay it on its back like this. And here's our little spine edge. We're going to line it up. We're going to clip it to itself. Let's just check it out, make sure we're going to just clip it. Let's see, get it right in there. And then I'm going to just line it up with make sure it's perfectly centered. And then I'm going to clip everything together. Just move the clips, just kind of gently, get them so that you've got all the little pieces together. And then looks good. Now I'm just going to poke a hole right through. So that's easy to do because you've already got the layers. Now I'm noticing this paper kind of is it's a little bit, it's tearing a little bit. So if I want to reinforce this, which I'll show you, I had to just go a little bit more carefully, I think. It wants to tear. It's not as strong as I thought it would be. I think it'd be fun to put some washi tape down here or something, but I got to worry about it right now. Oh, plus the threads will cover it up. So there is the thread. I've got the 3 holes in here, and now I'm going to just stitch, and I've got the wax thread, so that's a good thing. And I'm going to start. If you want your cord to be hidden, you'll start your thread, your sewing from the inside moving out. But if you have some decorative cord or decorative string, you can start your needle from the outside going in. So I don't want mine showing. I want mine to be hidden as much as possible. So I'm taking the thread, and I'm going to just bring it I'm going to leave about a 6-inch tail on the inside. And I'm going to go to the opposite hole, pulling it in. And I'm going to just pull it kind of tight. There we go. And now I'm going to go across the whole thing, across the whole, skip this hole, cross over, and just stitch it take that, and this is so I'm going to try one that's going to be more stitches. I think that'd be fun. Now I'm going to bring it in through the hole that I started in right there. And that's it. That is it. So here's, but what we need to do to tie it up, let me show you how to do that. So here's the cord. I think it'd be fun if I had a more bright, something fun, but I could paint that, so it's no big deal. When you're tying it off, you want to have your threads on the opposite of the one that's straight across. So you have a middle thread. You make sure that your threads, your tie thread, these ends are going to be on like that. This long piece needs to be in the middle of those. So now I'm going to make a nice snug, just nice and snug, tight as I can, and just do a slip knot, and that's that. You can do a second one if you want, just to be sure. And then I'm going to tie it up, and I'm not going to leave a lot. There we go, just got a little tiny bit. Oh, Valerie's coming back in. So that is it. So now what you do is you take off your little, welcome back, Val. So now you've got it. You're just going to tie it up, and there it is. So that is my little, that's the first one. We can do another one with the 5 stitches. Now I noticed that a little bit of my paper is kind of, because I trimmed it. I trimmed the cover. I'm not going to be too fussy, but let's say I wanted to be fussy about this because I didn't want the paper to stick out. I can always take my paper here and just do another trim, but I'm not going to bother with it. It's pretty, it's not perfect, but it's okay. If I wanted to, though, I could, because I am kind of a perfectionist. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I would do. I'm going to just lay this under. I've got it's under the mat, and I have this little piece here, this little text block. I'm going to trim just a tiny bit more, like a little bit more, just to get it so that it's nice. And I want it to be a little bit underneath the cover. So I'm going to do this. I'll show you how you can adjust. You can make adjustments. So there it is. I'm going to go ahead, and now I got to hold it firmly. I do not want to, of course, I should do this. Using the guard would be a good idea. I'm going to make it a very small sliver off the edge. And I'm just going to go in the layers, just like I did before. Layers, and let those layers kind of peel off. With a sharp blade, not putting pressure down really, very light pressure, going through all the layers of these pages until I have no more paper left. I'm just going to get all through that. And I think, let's see, that's a very small sliver. So I see that I need to keep cleaning up the edge here. And when you do that, just don't move your ruler. Keep it there until you have gotten all the little layers. And when you know you have, then you can remove the ruler. There, see, now it's all flush and beautiful. And I'm going to move this, and look, it's hiding behind the cover. Looks gorgeous. And I love this little thing. So let's try for a moment. Let's try the large. We've got plenty of time. I'm going to show you how to do more stitches if you want to have more decorative. And I wish if I had some thread that was decorative, that would be fun. Let me see if I've got some. I've got some really thick thread, but I don't think that would work. And I do have some silver thread, so I could try. I've got some silver thread that might be kind of fun, or I could just use the thread I have and paint it, which you can do that because cotton threads can be painted. So I'm going to take away this, and I'm going to kind of repeat what we did before. So I've got that one done. Job is done on that one. And this is the other one that I had previously done. I had glued most of the cover. Of course, it didn't all get glued down, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue down there. That's a lot of glue, too much. You can also put some glue on the inside just to sort of, if you wanted to put a little glue, we'll do this. Let me show you another little trick. So here we've got, this is pretty much there. I don't want to be too fussy about it. And I'm going to take my signatures. I've got a bigger stack this time, slightly bigger. So like probably, let me see how many pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the same amount. Okay, back. So let's do a little bit more this time. So I'm going to take my clips and do the same thing. Just kind of clip it. And you want to do it while it's kind of half folded, but you might have to adjust the clips a little bit when you lay it flat. You'll notice that the paper will buckle depending on what you've got, what papers you've got. You can do these with already printed papers, or some jelly prints that you want to use, you can certainly do that. So let's make a mark. Let's do more than one. We're going to do some more signatures. So I'm going to mark in the center with my pencil, wherever I put it. There's a pencil somewhere on my table. There it is. So I'm going to mark the center one right in the center. I always want a center one. Then I'm going to move. We're going to go one in between, just like what we did before, the 3, like that. It's close. I mean, it's not exactly, but then I'm going to put one in between those 2. So I've got 5. Now I could leave it like that, or I can put another set. This is going to be a little more stitching, but at least you can see it's possible, especially for larger pieces. What you want though is you want the center one to be, there's the center, and I've got 3 holes on this side, 3 holes on that side. So you want an even, basically you're gonna have an odd number with the center being 1, and then I've got 3 on the outside. So you can always have odd numbers when you want to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and do my little poke with the awl on all of these little pieces. One thing I didn't do is I didn't score these. I could see I did not score this paper, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll do it later. I mean, I didn't really burnish it down, so I'm going to go ahead. I can see that the folds aren't as sharp as the other one, so but I'll fix that. So I've got 2 holes, and if you have a hole punch, you can use one of those screw punches. You can use one of those. It's harder actually. It's actually much more to me. It's easier to go through with an awl, to go through layers of paper. If you have a decent awl, you'll be happy if you're doing any of these kinds of things. And so my stitches aren't exactly the same distance, but I really don't care. It's all good. It's going to hold together a lot more firmly than the other one, that's for sure. But it's going to be, I don't remember now, it's going to take a while to remember how I stitched these, but here I've got the 7 holes, and I'm going to take my cover, wherever that is. There you go. And what I'm going to do is, while I could put some glue on this, just to give it a little oomph while I'm doing this, but I'm not going to do it today. You could put some glue down there, and that kind of holds things even better, but let's just do the stitching and just let that be. So I'm going to just got to take the clips off gently. I don't want to lose the placement of the holes. I'm just going to put this down on the page, make sure it's what I want and the placement I want, and I'm going to just make sure it's kind of centered on that, and then I'm going to clip it back together. And if you haven't tried, these Wonder Clips are great. They're for sewing, but they're awesome for paper crafts because they don't really put a big dent in the paper. They don't pinch the paper too much. There's a little tiny hole, but no, you wouldn't notice that. Most people wouldn't. I'm noticing it because it does it sometimes. So I'm going to just take it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just get that hole punched into the cover. I'm just going to go through, and this time I can just go through, but see, I don't need to, the hole's already started. So there it is. That one. I want to make sure I get all the holes. There we go. And then one more. There. So they're all poked through. And now I'm going to start my stitching. Here, I've got enough thread, I think, to go through everything. I hope. We'll see. These are so much fun to make. You can make these for gifts, little stationery, little notepads to keep by your phone. The same thing. I'm going to start I want my stitch to start to be ended in the middle or under the pages. I don't like the stitches to be out, but like I said, decorative threads would be really pretty. If you wanted to do it on the outside, you would just start it. So I'm going to bring that through. I'm going to leave a tail there. And what's really good is if you want to just take that clip to keep it from coming all the way through, I've got it clipped now to the end clip just to keep it from coming out. So I just did it like that. And now I'm going to take my next one and I'm going to go right here, back through. Okay, so basically there. And then I'm going to go to the next one. I don't remember now. I'm going to figure this out. I'm just going to do the next one and not worry about it and see what happens. This one. So I'm going on my outer 3, kind of every other one, just kind of your normal slip stitch. And then when I come through this way, I'm going to come back through this one. Back through, and then down through this one. Those have all, now those three are all connected. Now I'm going to skip this one. I'm skipping it. I'm going to skip the middle one. That's the only one you want to skip. I'm going to skip it, and I'm going to come through the one on the other side. And then just do the same thing I did on the other side. I'm going to go up. I'm going to stitch through and stitch up through this part. If I can find it, there it is, like that. Now I'm going to go back through the hole I just came out of, the previous one, I mean. And then I'm going to come up through, if you turn it around, I'm going to come up through the hole that's next to that. And then at the very end, I'm going to go back through the very center original hole. And now I can tie it off in the center, just like I did. Like, there we go. And oh, that's going to make it very nice and sturdy. And now I have that piece here. I want to make sure that my thread is on the opposite side of the center thread. There you are. I'm going to take this piece off, and I'm going to snugly just kind of give it a snug tug without ripping through all the pages, depending on what weight you have paper. You're going to just do it gently, and I'm going to do a slip knot like this, just a little overhand knot, simple, and then trim your threads, and then you can always tie another one just for good measure. And that's all you'll need. And that wax kind of grips everything, which is nice. And I'm going to just trim a little bit off because I have the little tail. And now I see that my pages are really I haven't done anything to burnish those down. So I'm going to take my folder, and I can see I have an edge that needs to be trimmed as well. I really should have done that earlier, but it's all right. Still looks pretty cool. So you see with the 5 pieces, you've got, it's a lot more of a sturdy book actually than with the 3 stitches. But here I see that I need to trim off more of this. I don't even think I did it with that one. No, I didn't. So what I'm going to do is, I didn't trim that center sticky outy stuff. So I'm going to take it. My last step on this, you could do it at any stage, whatever feels comfortable. So I'm going to look at the cover, and I'm going to decide, okay, I see what needs to go. And I've got the bottom other covers underneath the cutting mat, the other side. See, it's just the block of paper that I have out here. The cover is on the other side of the mat. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fix that block so that it's nice and straight. Nice and pretty, and underneath the cover edges. I'm sure there's an easier way, but this is just the way I've always done it. Probably, I don't know. This is just the way I've always done this. And it's been, a few trips around the sun here on this one. So there we go. There. So that, I think I got them. Looks very clean now on the edge. And I'm going to pull it out, and the cover's there. And yep, nice and lined up. And there, and I could decide which side I want to be the front, which side I want to be the back. And I might even do some kind of maybe a little lettering here or something, or doodling. But that's that one. So we've got 2 of them made in 2 styles. If you wanted to too, is just to really get those papers to lay flat, just burnish them down. And there they are. So there's 2 books, one with 5, one with 3, and you can decide. With this size book, really 3 is probably just fine, but it's still kind of nice to be able to do different sizes. I'm not sure which side I want to be. Maybe this side. I'll figure it out. So there you go. Let's see how everybody's doing.